first to break the inputs and the current keywords in separate words. After that, we could create two different vectors. The first one could be used to store the words for the input, and the other one would store the words for the current keyword. Once we have done this, we could use the Levasian distance for measure the distance between two vectors. Then the fifth one. You could repeat the same sentence over and over and the program wouldn't have any reaction to this. This can be solved by adding a simple code to a program. But still there are some more to cover. Let's see some ideas. Sixth one. Since the code for the chatbot have started to grow, it would be a good thing to encapsulate the implementation of the chatbot by using a class. Then the seventh one, the database is still much too small to be capable of handling a real conversation with users. Need to add some more entries in it. Then the other one, it may happen sometimes that user will press the enter key without entering anything on the keyboard. Need to handle this situation also. Here is an example where its matter is handled. The user might try to trick the chatbot by repeating his previous sentence with some slight modification. Need to count this as a repetition from the user, and here is a successful example for the above matter. Then finally, need a way for ranking keywords when have multiple choices of keywords for a given input. We need a way for choosing the best one among them. To handle all the above matters, can use some methods which is used in chatbot implementations. Here are some examples of methods. Further, can use more techniques in order to increase the quality of a chatbot by doing simple modifications for the program code's record structure to have more than one keyword per record. Use concept of keyword ranking. This is used to identify the best response among responses. What is keyword ranking? Keyword ranking is a way for the program to select the best keyword in his database when there are more than one keyword that match the user's inputs. For example, if we have the current user input like what is your name again, by looking into his database, the chatbot would have a list of two keywords that match this input. What and what is your name? Which one is the best? Well, the answer is quite simple. It's obviously what is your name, simply because it is the longest keyword. So far, the database was always built into the program, which means whenever modified the database also have to recompile the program. This is not really convenient because it might happen sometimes that when only want to edit the database and keep the rest of the program as it is. For these reasons and many others, it could be good thing to have a separate file to store the database, which then give us a capability of just editing the database without having to recompile all the files in the program. To store the database can basically use a simple text file with some specific notations to distinguish the different elements of the database. In the current program, we will use the following notations that have been used before some implementation of ELISA chatbot in Pascal. Saving the conversation logs. Why saving the conversation logs between the user and the chatbot? Because it could be helped to find weaknesses of chatbot during a given conversation. Then have to decide on which modifications to make to the database in order to make the future conversations exchanges more natural. Basically, save the time and also the date to will help determine the progress of the chatbot after new updates were applied to it. Saving the logs help us to determine how human-like is the conversation skill of the chatbot. Implementation of a chatbot. Basically, a chatbot is a computer program that when you provide it with some inputs in natural language, responds with something meaningful in that same language, which means that the strength of a chatbot could be directly measured by the quality of the output selected by the bot in response to the user. As you can see here, it doesn't take lot of code to write a very basic program that can interact with the user. But it would be probably be very difficult to write a program that would really be capable of truly interpreting what the user is actually saying, and after that would also generate an appropriate response to it. Is there any problem when writing an effective program for chatbot? Yes, there can be many. Now let's see what are the main problems that can be arise with a chatbot code, and let's see what are the solutions to overcome this problem. First one, the chatbot try to provide random response from its database besides trying to understand what the user actually is saying. One reason for this because of the size of the database. For example, if we look at the previous code, the size of the database, which is very small. We can solve this problem by using keywords. What is a keyword? A keyword is just a sentence or even a word that the program might recognize from the user's input, which then makes it possible for the program to react to it. For example, if we write programs with knowledge base or database, it will be composed of keywords and some response associated to each keyword. Second one, the program is repeating himself very often and have no control of repetition of responses. This is actually happened because it haven't implemented any mechanism that could control this unwanted behavior. The solution is one is again keywords. If we consider the previous example, we can create a knowledge base or a database including keywords as well as possible matching answers for each keyword. And the other one is can use a string variable to store the previous response of the chatbot and make some checking selecting the next bot response to see if it's not equal to the previous response. If it is the case, then we can select a new response from the available responses. In previous example, it used a variable called sprev response to store the previous response. The chatbot can't identify certain inputs if there are punctuations, extra spaces, and if the program is sensitive. For example, if the user input like hi exclamation mark 3 with 3 exclamation marks and space, then few commas and a dot, sometimes the chatbot may not understand this. So, as a solution for this, can use a new mechanism to pre-process the user's inputs before it can be searched into the chatbot database. Like according to the example, first convert the user input to the uppercase and remove all the extra spaces and punctuations before it can be searched in the chatbot database. Then the fourth one,